Hello guys and welcome to another Red Dragon video. This one is going to deal with a very, let's say, polemic aspect of the game, which is support decks. Now, a support deck basically what does is when you create a deck, you select support specialization and it gives you a +1 experience for the units of the type support. You get a bonus in activation points for support and logistics. You have extra 4 slots available for support and extra 4 slots available for unit logistic. Now, let's do a virtual recreation of what happens when someone creates a support deck. Okay, they go, let's say, red 4 and go support. And they look, oh, look at all those support spots. Let's go here and get the biggest, meanest artillery we can. Where are the Malkas? Malkas! As many as we can. Where are the Smerches? Smerches, come here! Lots of them. Also, Uragans, that's a lot. Come here. Yeah, why not some grass as well? Come on, here. And more. I want more. Oh, Pibonkas. Pibonkas are really good. Let's get 3 of those, which are really great. And etc. Yeah, they go like this. It's like support deck in their brain is let's get as many as big things we can to shoot from our spawn and shoot the crap out of anything we want. That's the way support works for them. Well, no. Well, I mean, yes, you can do that, but you are going to be an absolute nuisance to the enemy and an absolute non-asset for your team. You're actually going to be nothing because you are going to accomplish nothing. Sure, you are going to get some kills, sure, you are going to kill some units, sure, you are going to accomplish absolutely nothing because that's not why support deck is supposed to do. Now, let me show you my Soviet support deck is just so ridiculous. I'm not going to even comment on that. I'm going to comment on the NATO support. The Soviet one is essentially broken because you can call for 4 Buratinos and that's just broken. Anyway, NATO support. Let's see what I have done in this deck and how should I play it. Later on we are going to see a game. Now, as you can see, in effect I use all my support slots, use all my logistics slots, but I also use a lot more stuff. Let's begin one by one and see what's in each slot. NATO support is basically a deck with US only. It's actually not NATO, it's US, but whatever. It's a deck I created as a force multiplier. So I'm not going to accomplish a whole lot on my own, even while I can, but it's going to cost me a lot because I don't have the tools to do so. But it's designed to focus on a flank or on a given area of the map and invest there to support whatever players are going in that flank to facilitate them the job of first establishing themselves there and second to achieve a breakthrough and eventually win the game in that area. This is a deck specialized for 10v10s. And the Soviet one I have tried in 4v4s and it's absolutely ridiculous, but that's because of the Buratinos. And this one I haven't tried yet in a 4v4. So I might design it slightly different in a 4v4, but this is for 10v10. Anyway, this is what I go for and the thought process behind it. First, a command tank and an LAV command unit. One of the first things you realize doing support decks is that you are never the guy at the front breaking your teeth against the enemy on their face. You are supporting someone, so you always have some available points that you can spend on things that really are worth it. For instance, command units that you can save points for taking, while other guys who are fighting on the front will spend those points better in actual fighting units. So a command tank is always really good and an LAV. Next, 2 cards of Super Chinooks, 2 cards of FOBs, and 2 cards of HEMTT. So these are also cargo units because, well, in M35s because I have the place in the deck, so why not? Of course, I have a lot of AA, I have a lot of artillery, and I have a lot of teammates to supply. So you want to bring as many supplies as you can to keep them supplied and keep your forces supplied. Chinooks are insane, FOPs are really good, HEMTT are amazing, and the cargo units, well, for just a random single unit that needs some extra missiles, an AA unit for instance, well, they always come in handy and are really expendable and cheap. So that's the thought process behind that. Now, infantry. In infantry, you want to support your allies, so you want to put infantry on the ground, and you want as good infantry as you can. Particularly so in the case of a support tech, you are specialized in two things: providing for artillery support, providing for ATGM support, and providing for AA support, which is extremely important. So, AA support being the main issue, two cars of Stinger, one of Stinger C, one of Stinger Ace. Next, light rifleman in 90s with ATGM. It has an ATGM, not great, but still gets things done. And a couple of rifleman 90s in N113s. Pretty standard thing. This is actually a viable and credible infantry force for a standard deck. So yeah, this is actually pretty good. Next, support. Now, as you can see, I didn't go totally nuts here. I went for N11, N110 A2s for sniping roles, but I almost never use it in this deck, to be honest. I go for MLRSs, two of them, which are extremely good for anti-artillery work and especially so against big concentrations of armor. And the next is mortars. You can't run a support deck without mortars. Really, you can't. I mean, I'm not even taking paladins, which arguably are the best artillery for the US. I'd rather get mortars because the video I made on them, I think is good explanation enough. And the rest is all AA. Two cars of chaparrals, two cars of Ihawks, one car of pivats. Because my main role is providing for AA cover for my allies, so they aren't subjected to the attack of Akulas, of bombers, of napalm, whatever. And also it's really good for, especially the chaparrals are exceptional for the beginning of the game to stop enemy airborne assaults. Next in line, tanks. Now tanks is a problem because the US don't get really good tanks, and honestly I have very little respect for them 60 starships and the M48, so I just get one car of MBT 17. Now this is a hell of a tank, don't get me wrong, and it's extremely useful. It's not a great anti-tank tank, but with this cannon with 4 80 power, with this 80 autocannon, is amazing versus infantry in woods, especially in woods. If you want to clear a wood of enemies, this is arguably better than the BMPT because I mean it's got a 480 power cannon with 10 rounds per minute, which is pretty insane, and it also has some decent ATGM ability with a very good range ATGM with decent AP power and accuracy. So this is a very credible anti-tank tank, but it's not the best at that. Still, very useful tank. Next, Recon, another of your big influences and another of the things you want to do all the time as a support player is to provide for Recon for your teammates. Now, of course, a support deck puts a limit on the units you can call for, and actually Recon in the NATO support, in the US support deck, you don't get really good visibility units. You get the MUTT, which is very good. This is actually a very nice unit to have. The Kiowa is a chopper, but it only gets good optics, and that's kind of the disadvantage. And then you have Rangers. Two cars of Rangers, one in Humvees, one in Chinooks. So you can call them quickly, you can call them for trying to do flanks, all that stuff. I would probably call for another different vehicle instead of a MUTT, but there's no other vehicle unit in this deck that can have very good optics. So it's kind of a trade-off. still, this selection gets things done. Next, vehicles. And here, as I told you, there's another of the big important parts of this deck. You're trying to support your allies, and they usually are using tanks, they are using infantry, and the NATO tanks usually don't get ATGMs. So when assaulting a position, you usually run into the bad situation of going against enemy ATGMs. Now you can, of course, smoke them out, but sometimes it's not really an option because they are out of range. Maybe you didn't call for them yet, or maybe what happens is that they are coming for you. And for that, your own ATGMs is the best thing you can field. Now I have two cars of LAVATs with ITOs and one car of N18182 to ITOs. Now you have access to a Humvee TOW 2, which is a much better missile, but it's much more expensive. And the way I see it, this unit is mostly dependable. It's a throwaway unit to stop determined pushes and to just guard zones. And for that, this unit is more than enough. It's also very cheap. And then an engineering tank. Now I don't go for flamethrowers because the flamethrower tanks NATO gets don't get a main gun, and that's a big deal when you compare it with the Soviet ones. This one offers the ability to fire from long range with huge HE power, and this is actually indirect firing. You can fire over obstacles, over woods, so you can fire from cover. And this is really, really good to deal with entrenched infantry in towns, ADM units which are hiding in a bush, whatever. Next, helicopters. Uh, Again, big role of your deck is to provide for AA cover against the enemy. For an opener, you want to go with Kiowas, with Stinger missiles, because they are really good at that. I mean, the missile is not the best, the range is not the best, but still they are extremely cheap. They come in really nice quantity, 7 per card, so that's really good. And then 2 cards of Apaches. Now, one of them in hardened, 3 of them in trained. Now, Apaches are very looked down upon since the introduction of the longbow, but we don't get longbows in this deck. However, they are still extremely powerful units with Hellfires, Hydra rockets, and a very nice autocannon. This thing is extremely powerful against enemies that don't have a proper AA cover. And as you are going to see in the game, I'm going to post later, and these things can rip things off. So yeah, 2 cards of those. Finally, air. Now, support. Again, your role is not to snipe enemies from your spawn. Your role is to provide for cover for your allies to succeed. So for that, arguably I should and may add a SEAD plane here, maybe Prowlers, maybe Ravens, but I didn't. And the idea is the one I'm going to say right now. First, Eagles and F-16 Block 52s. This is a no excuse thing. You must put at least 2 cards of air superiority fighters, and the best one you get. So yeah, these things are going to cover against enemy fighters. They are going to deal with the enemy air superiority units, and they are going to cover your front. You need this. Couple of FA-18C Hornets. You can go for the higher veterancy here, but I go for 2 because, well, they still have a 50% accuracy missile, which is really good. The higher veterancy helps, but I'd rather get 2 of them. And then an F-15E Strike Eagle. Now, you can use a Nighthawk here if you want. The Nighthawk is really good. But the Strike Eagle has 4 1000 kilogram bombs, and this thing apart has 40% ECM, so you can run into a contested AA area and run away from that alive. And it has 4 very good AA misses, so in a pinch it can even do some AA work as well. It's also less expensive than in Wargamer La Battle, so it's a really good unit. The Nighthawk is just a bomber and it only has one bomb. Of course, it's stealthy. Yeah, okay. I think the Stradiel is better. And yeah, you could well delete things from other parts of the deck to include a Sead, which would be really good, but I decided against it. Now, let's see how this deck works. Now, the first thing is that it's a support deck, so you have to support all your allies. You can see that my initial force is 4 Kiowas with Stingers, 1 Recon Kiowa and 1 Apache. I also have a command unit which is moving into Kilo and some light infantry in Humvees, which I'm going to put just at the tip of that forest and just to cover for with the ATGM for whatever moves between X-Ray and Oscar. Now I also have an F-16 Block 52 which I'm going to use to patrol this area. I see a couple of Su-27Ss there, but I'm not going to throw my plane versus those. It's a 2v1, probably I will lose my plane. I'd rather patrol this area, and if they come close, well, we'll have to fight them, but in our own turf. Of course they don't move in because they are scared. We spot a KA-52, which is a Recon chopper, very expensive one, very good one, with very good AA missiles. So I call the Apache back. I move the Kiowa slightly back, and I call for my anti-aircraft Kiowas up. I also call for the F-16 to do a strafing run on that. And now you're going to see that the KA-52 has killed our scout. Kiowa is going to kill 2 further AA Kiowas, but in the end it goes down. It's 150 points in exchange of less than 120. So I call that a fair deal. The F-16 got hit by AA, so I had to move it away. And as I move it away, I call for a couple of iHawks to provide for AA cover. Because one of the first things the enemy is going to do is to call for artillery on that zone or for calling for planes. So I want to be ready for that. I also call for a recon unit in a Humvee to go and cover that crossroad near Kilo, so the lightning rifleman can shoot their ATGM. And sure enough, as I said, here they come. First airstrike. And we are ready for that. We have a couple of iHawks, and they are going to shoot on the Yak 38s. We didn't kill them, but we allowed for those anti-aircraft Kiowas to kill them. We softened them enough so they would go down. One of them drops the napalm but gets absolutely nothing. I call for a super Chinook to reload my iHawks, which is the main issue with the iHawk is that it only has 3 missiles and you have to reload it all the time. But well, I call for another Recon helicopter and I'm also going to wait for 30 points so I can call for those Rangers in a Humvee. That way I will be able to accompany those Navy SEALs. We see they are moving forward. I want to keep Recon on the front. Now, at this moment we are really weak in units. The guy who's playing with me has called for a lot of AA choppers. That's good. The problem is that if they attack now, we are going to be in a pretty sorry state. Meanwhile, we see some rocket artillery on the far right. Nothing I can do about that. I don't have the points to go for proper artillery to counter that, so not going to even bother thinking about it. Humvee moving up. My iHawks are reloaded, so I'm going to move them further up to cover for any further airstrikes that come our way. Our recon unit is in place. I call for the Humvee back. And now that we have some points, and look at that Chinook is really doing a good job in resupplying those AA Kiowas. The Navy SEALs are moving forward. I'm going to stay a little behind them. I don't want to assume the front position yet. And I'm going to call for some standard infantry, some riflemen to cover those mountains. One of the big things in this map is that you want to keep your flanks secure, and those mountains are a really nice place to come by surprise. So I want to keep some infantry there. So now we start seeing lots of enemy units in those forests and in the open. So dismount my Recon, I call for my Apache up, and I'm going to try to, well, shoot some enemy units. This 64's there. Wait, my main thing here is that I see videos there. I don't want to move really up because the AA could be murderous. So what I do instead is to keep my Apache up here and just give covering fire for the retreating Navy SEALs because I want to, yeah, I don't want them to die. So there you go. Both units are dead. The Navy SEALs are retreating. I don't call the Apache up because it's risking it for no real purpose. I see a lot of units up there, but if I get greedy, I'm going to lose the Apache. And those are a lot of points. That's 140 points. I don't want to easily lose. So I move the Apache to the edge of the forest to cover for a possible advance. I call for a couple chaparrals to provide for AA cover, and I lose my Kiowa because of an AA missile in that forest. Now, those are 30 points, but had I moved the Apache up, I would have lost it instead. So, yeah, that was a good call not to move the Apache up. So I retreat it and keep it in reserve. And well, you can spot the riflemen are moving up the mountain. I take a look elsewhere to see where some help can be needed. Videos are there. And this is where I really feel the need to have a Raven. But really, in the context of the deck, you don't really need one. You can work around the fact that you don't have any SEAD. Instead, what I'm going to do is I see a lot of armored units in that forest, and we don't have anything to stop them, other than choppers. But choppers are unreliable, as you saw. We lost an M60 DAP there. So I call for my ATGMs to provide for a line of defense. Because right now, again, I'm supposed to be supporting someone, but that says someone doesn't have any meaningful forces. So, yeah. There you go, a Raven there. Probably that killed a unit, which was really useful. It's going to be really handy for us to use our Apache later. I'm going to call the Apache near the Chinook to resupply it. Our ATMs are moving in place and just in time, as you are going to see it. I spot that they are moving forward, so I call for some light riflemen with ATMs to be in that forest. Just as a reserve, in case they go past that place, they will find some really nasty ATM flanking fire. Meanwhile, our ATMs are doing a great job. Remember, those are 45 point units. Yeah, I lose one, but I already covered for the cost of that one, and I'm going to make even more points now. Well, actually I didn't get it, but whatever. I call for the ITOs back. There's artillery there, they are spotted, and now they are not spotted anymore. And now I call for a cargo truck there to resupply their missiles. Unload the light rifleman, call the Humvees back. And the next thing I realize is that we need more ATMs, because just 2 units is not going to be enough. So I call for one, I call for the ATMs back to the front again. Now they are hidden in the forest. They are not being detected. I move the light rifleman to be properly under cover. There you go. And the next thing I'm going to do is to put some AA in those mountains. I first called for a couple of Stinger A's, but then I think no, I want Stinger C's. Of course, I can't place Humvees in the top of a mountain, so after struggling a bit, there you go. There they are. Now I call for the Chinook back to resupply from my FOBs. And well, as you can see, well, we are reloaded. The ATMs, we are repairing them. We don't have a huge lot of points, but the points we have, we are going to spend in a couple of ITOs in Humvees. 30 points apiece, very cheap, very capable unit. So yeah, let's put that one there. Also calling Stingers, moving them forward, and covering the mountain with them. Now I call for my Apache up there because I think those units. There's an ME-24. I also call for my AA Kiowas. I think that zone there has no AA cover whatsoever. But soon you are going to see that I was totally mistaken and that there is indeed some AA cover. And I was a little bit lucky, to be honest. I move over the top mountain top and I intend to start sniping units from there. But wow, that's there's indeed AA cover there, so I call for everything back. The Apache becomes stunned, and that's a problem because when it's stunned, the unit simply refuses to follow orders, and it's down to 1 square of health, and thankfully I'm able to call it back just in time. So I call for an HE-MTT, and I'm going to repair that Apache, of course. Call for the Stingers up. And while we are at it, we are going to call for a rocket launcher. I'm thinking of putting it closer to the front, but actually there's a problem with the rocket launchers, and that's they have a minimum range under which you can't fire them. So I actually have to call them from the spawn. Stingers are moving forward to kill that ME-24. There you go, they are fighting and we get it. Meanwhile, I'm going to move my ATGMs up. Now I see my ally has some decent troops up front. And I'm going to support his efforts. Oh, those are a lot of concourse. So I call for the LAV-AT. I tried to sneak behind the woods, but not in time. And it gets taken out. So the rocket launcher is already in place. I'm going to place a missile there. But it's going to be unneeded actually, because the advancing riflemen are going to take most of them. So I move my LAV, my ATGMs to cover the advance. As you can see, we have an Abrams, an M60ADS, and my ATGM units, which are going to come really handy in here. There's a BMPT there. That's a huge thing. There are 2 of them actually. So I move my ATGMs up. We want to kill them before they destroy those light riflemen. I call for a second rocket launcher. And now I spot this Gornostrelsky from here, and I could retire my ATGMs to the forest, but I'm not going to. I'm going to remain there and take the fire, because there's an Abrams there. And I'd rather sacrifice my ATGMs, which are 45 points apiece, than letting those Gornostrelsky take a flank shot on a couple of Abrams, which are 155 points apiece. So I move with my rifleman and kill off those Gornostrelsky, and as you can see, both Abrams survived. Again, support deck, you are supposed to support. You are not supposed to be the hero, you are not supposed to snipe things from the spawn. Meanwhile, we get yet another plane with the Ihawks. We reposition them so they can't get sniped by artillery. Call for my logistic unit back to the base so it can get reloaded. I call for my Synux backup. And then now I'm assigning fast keys to my artillery because I want to access them just by hitting a number 1, 2, 3, etc. So my Apache is there, but it's still not landed. I'm going to land and repair it. I call for another one. Ooh, T80 that's a lot of points. So that's really attracting. The prospect of attacking a T80 is never something you can easily say no to. So I'm sorting my selection because I didn't do properly the first time. And now you can see that those units are advancing there. There's a concourse unit there. There's no AA. Well, there's actually one AA there, but I'm in cover and I'm able to take shots at those BTR 70s, the concourse. And without any kind of problem for my Apache. Now they are getting shot, so I'm going to call for them back. I retire them and order them to land near the track. Now I'm going to call for some rocket launcher to fire there. Now remember, those things actually have cluster ammunition. I'm just shooting with one, the other I cancel the order. I don't want to shoot with both of them. Those things have huge AP power. They are cluster ammunition actually. So it's really good to destroy massed up units as the ones we saw there. Call for more ATGMs to support the advance of my ally. As you can see, I haven't called for any tank yet, for instance. I could have done so, but I think that my LA-80s are going to be much better at that job of supporting the advance than the MBT-70s that I have in my deck. Meanwhile, look at that, all those units. Moving my Apache up. Ooh, there's a KI-52 there. That's not really a good new, but the PBAS gets it. And I'm going to fire away at those Afghanskis now, because we have an M860DL DAP, which those Afghanskis can kill, and that DAP actually costs some points. So yeah, by destroying the Afghanskis, I'm not letting them shoot at that helicopter. Meanwhile, I call for some rocket artillery back there. There you go. Afghanskis are out. So now I'm going to move my Apache out. Ooh, KA-52 is there, but I have Stingers, and the Stingers are going to get me another easy 150 points. And there is the Apache wreaking havoc. SU-25, that's a 200 point plane. That's a really tempting target. By the way, we got a T-80U M, 180 points to the back. And ooh, there's something there on the booth on the left. My AA Kiowas are getting into fire. Yeah, they are getting fired. I'm going to lose them, so well. Meanwhile, my Apache is moving really close to those units, so I'm going to call it back. It actually is out of ammunition, so it's a good moment to do so. My supply truck there is out of munitions, and my other Apache is not yet fully repaired and refueled, so I'm going to have to, well, keep them in reserve for the time being. Now I spot some Spetsnaz there, which are going to destroy my rifleman. Spetsnaz in a forest versus rifleman is what's going to happen basically. Still, I call for the Apache. It's not fully repaired, as you can see, and doesn't have the whole complement of ammunition, but I want to get rid of those Spetsnaz as soon as I can. Sadly, not in time to save my rifleman, but in enough time to deal some damage to those T-72s, and actually, well, they are going to kill the Space Nuts with rockets in a second. I lose track of the Space Nuts for a second. I was going to call for area fire, but no need to because they get pre-spotted. And Space Nuts are gone. And a lot of stuff gets destroyed by my Apache, which is absolutely wreaking havoc on the enemy. Now, as you can see, this is not a longbow. The longbow is a much better platform to do ATGM strikes because it has fire and forget weapons. The Apache actually has guided weapons, but still, it's such a powerful plane, a helicopter, sorry. So, well, Apache is running out of ammunition. I call for the other one. I'm cycling them out and in, as you can see. Yet another strike. Yet another chance for my chaparrals and IHawks to reap me some nice extra points. Now I call for the Apache back to get reloaded. My IHawks are out of ammunition, so I call them back as well. MiG-25 and 29 coming, but chaparrals are going to hit it, but sadly not enough to destroy them. Meanwhile, my other Apache is going to be pulled out of the line because I spot a Tunguska. And simply said, wherever a Tunguska is, your Apaches can't be. Now I'm going to call for a rocket strike on that forest because I'm thinking that Tunguska is going to hide in there. So, well, Apaches are taking, there you go, BMP team, and it's time to hide. Because that Tunguska, if it wins a line of sight on my Apache, is going to destroy it. So, well, time to bring it back, reload it. LABs are shooting at the T-72s, and that's another 120 points. Now, how effective those things are, it's insane. Now let's move forward because the Tunguska is moving into the line of fire of our ATGMs. And yeah, that's another 75 points. Really good work by my LABs. Meanwhile, the IHawks are already resupplied. They are starting to fire on that MiG-27, but unfortunately, it walks away. Now, my Apache is supposed to be landed there resupplying, but somehow I don't know why it's landed, but it's not resupplying. The other one is actually very close to be ready, but the other one is refusing to resupply, so I ordered it to move and land again. Meanwhile, we see again a very strong rocket strike from the right side. That's a Buratino in a very weak spot, actually. There's only an M60 there. So, well, if they are going to use rocket artillery, at least it's good that they use it there. Meanwhile, we have some air combat there, and you can see those are Smerches. Those rockets, which are delivering cluster ammunition, is going to kill one of my LABs there. Those are Smerches from the spawn point, which, well, is kind of yeah, it's a nuisance, but it got a 45-point unit, which is a huge waste for what those units can do. Now again, IHawk firing, this time in a MiG-25, missing it, sadly. And it's time to move them up again because they have their missiles. Well, one of them has to reload again, but once it's done, we will move the IHawk again forward. Now I spot there's something to my right. So as soon as I'm done moving my IHawks and calling for more chaparrals because the other two got destroyed, moving my Apache to deal with that unit there. They are strolling into Kilo, and that's not acceptable. So the Apache comes in, settles the thing, and makes sure nothing walks into our zone. Call for another Recon unit here. I spot a BRDM-3 Recon unit there. And a lot of choppers, planes. Well, again, SU-25. I-Hawks are going to make sure that it remains at least stand. And let's see if we can shoot it down. Meanwhile, I'm going to call for that Apache to destroy the Mi-26. I see some AA there, but I lose track of it. I'm trying to retire the Apache, but not in time. Sadly, that AA, those two AAs, which are Vidusas, I think, destroyed the Apache, and yeah, well, we lost one. That was unfortunate because I just was trying to turn around with it, but I didn't have time. So the other Apache is still reloading. I'm going to call for these empty units back to the FOB. And I'm going to call for this full Chinook up to help with the logistics in the zone. Meanwhile, even more planes coming. MiG-25 is going to actually move away. Lucky MiG-25. But he tried too hard and finally he got taken out. Now, the situation here is mostly of we have advanced infantry, but we don't have enough strength for a punch. So what I'm going to do is to call for yet another logistic unit, because really my I-Hawks are eating up so much supply. And I'm going to call for my helicopter to cover for what's on X-ray. Meanwhile, I use my rocket launchers to deal with the AA units we saw before. And look at all those planes. Now, if you are looking at my F-16 down in the left and you're wondering why I'm not using it, well, that's why. Because each time they come in planes, they come in a lot of them. So to call for a single plane or two of them in an area where there are 5-6 enemy planes is just calling for it to get destroyed. The Apache detects a Tunguska, so yeah. As I said, wherever a Tunguska is, your Apache can't be. Well, it can be in the ground and burning because it's not going to survive. However, the Tunguska is going to be taken out. So you are going to see in a second. There you go. I call for some MBT-70s to move up there because I know there are some space nuts in the buildings and I want to clear them out. Meanwhile, that MiG-27 gets extremely lucky. All that AA fire and they don't get taken out. And instead, I get one of my chopper loads destroyed. But yeah, well, such things happen. Now I move my Apache out. That Tunguska is dead. And I think the Virusas are also dead. But I'm going to surprise to my horror that no, they are not dead. They are still dead. I tried to move the Apache out, but I lose it. And actually that was a very noob mistake. I should have moved some Recon first and to be sure that there was nothing in there, because if you lose a 30-point Recon, well, it's okay. But if you lose a 140-point helicopter, that's going to hurt. So I place a Recon unit there. MBT-70s are going to move up, clear those space nuts, and yeah, move into the planes. At least that's my plan, but if you watch the scores you will see that this is mostly game. Moving the MBT-70s up. They are going to see the videos just in a second. ATMs are getting on their way, and we are going to score that Virusa. A little revenge for our Apache. And we are trying to kill the other one, but sadly the game is going to end before we are able to. So yeah, that was the game. You are going to watch this course right now, and that's how you use a support deck. You support other players, and you get scores like the one you see there. And you get to use artillery, you get to use planes, you get to use choppers, you get to use everything, but you don't use them from your spawn. You use them from the positions where they are actually useful. So yeah, that's one video of support decks. I probably will make another one with the Soviet one. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you later.